Well, good morning. This is Blake and Jandy Cox at Rocky Mountain Outfitters, and this is part of the Climb Glacier National Park Education Series. And today, Jandy is going to talk about ice axes and crampons. So, Jandy, tell us a little bit about ice axes and crampons.
Perfect. So, climbing in Glacier Park or climbing in the mountains, obviously on steep snow, when it gets in excess of where you're comfortable with your trekking poles and hiking boots, you then rely on an ice axe and often crampons. A couple rules of thumb. First off is, you'd never put crampons on without having an ice axe in your hand. If you just have crampons on, obviously it gives you great traction, but no way to protect yourself or stop yourself in the event of a fall. So an ice axe is both for security while walking up, just to give you a better balance, to plunge the shaft, and then kick steps, and then also to be able to self-arrest in the event of a fall. You can also use the adze for chopping steps to give yourself a little bit more secure foothold. And in effect, crampons come in obviously different lengths, different manufacturers. One of the biggest things that they come in, Blake just grabbed this one and said, "Boy, I wish this was the one I had bought." And I think with that theory of you spend more, you get less at Rocky Mountain Outfitter. This is the lightest ice axe on the market today. It's a camp ice axe. They make light stuff, and it's called the Corsa. The Corsa is, I should know the grams off the top of my head, but I don't. It's a very, very light axe. They make the Corsa Nanotech, which has as opposed to being an aluminum head, it has a steel pick and a steel point on the end of the shaft for a little bit more technical axe. So the curvature of the axe, if you're using it to kind of dagger with going up steep snow, keeps your hand a little out of the snow. It also, if you were to swing it, it gives a little bit more clearance for your hand and a little bit more technical, penetration. Any ice axe will provide you the ability to self-arrest. Typically, length will be determined by the angle at which you're climbing. So the steeper the climbing, the shorter the axe. Literally an ice climbing axe, for technical water ice. And I maybe should have grabbed one of those down, but those are shorter yet, 50 centimeters. When you go up to a general mountaineering axe, they would typically be 60 to 70 centimeters. Shorter axes certainly self-arrest better. They're lighter. They're easier to carry on your pack. And are my preference in that sort of 60 centimeter range. As you go longer, they do kind of work a little better as a walking stick, but you often have your trekking poles for that if it's not too steep. And then when the slope gets steeper, your ice axe is always in your uphill hand. And so, unless you're really tall, 60 is not far off for a lot of folks. A leash is another thing that's really important, so that, remember the first time I was climbing on steep snow and I slipped and went to self-arrest, and my ice axe came out of my hand, and thankfully I did have a leash, and I was able to recover my axe and still self-arrest. So a leash on an axe, I think, is a really good idea. So another thing we'll just touch on is our crampons. Crampons come again in many different styles, and one of two big differences are the styles of the front point. So you get vertical front points and horizontal front points. Vertical front points are more for water ice. This style of attachment, where you have a bail on your heel and your toe, requires a crampon compatible boot. Typically this again is more for ice climbing or steeper, alpine climbing. More of a general mountaineering crampon would have an attachment that would go on any kind of footwear, any kind of hiking boot, and would be real applicable again for Glacier Park climbing. They have horizontal front points for snow penetration, and secondary points that aren't quite as steep, angled. And then, one of the big differences here again, this is a stainless steel crampon. I have other steel crampons as well. Stainless is a little bit lighter and a little bit stronger, a little bit cooler. But then you also have aluminum, and again, this is another camp product, lightest crampon in the world, and made out of aluminum, so not quite as durable, but boy, you're not going to leave it at home because it's just so lightweight. And again, a crampon like this can go on. You wouldn't necessarily put it on a running shoe, but you can see it would go on any kind of footwear. And this is actually not properly adjusted to my shoe, so you would adjust it with a bolt. And obviously I should have boots on, but this would be something that's very easy to get on. Typically you'd leave the strap long, so if you ever did want to put them on ski boots or plastic mountaineering boots, you'd have something that you weren't selling yourself short by having too short of a strap on. So crampons definitely give you super good traction, but you do have to be careful that when you're walking in them, they can cause you to trip. So that's why you always have that ice axe in your hand when you put crampons on your feet.
All right. Thanks a lot, Jandy. Appreciate you giving us some more information on ice axes and crampons. And once again, we'll sign off from the Climb Glacier National Park Education Series. If you want an ice axe or crampons, make sure you check those out at Rocky Mountain Outfitter here in Kalispell, Montana.